It is my absolute pleasure to introduce Anne Tierney, who I'm talking to. I'm coming from you live down under. How are you?
I'm very well. I'm very well. What's the opposite of down under? I mean, where does that even come from?
I've always known that Australia's been called down under, I guess since the 80s, where the song came out from Men at Work, and then there was Paul Hogan throwing shrimps on the barbie, which we actually don't even call shrimps, they're prawns down under.
Yeah, we love that. Throw another shrimp on the barbie. Absolutely. Down under. Well, I'm, I guess, the opposite of whatever down under is. I'm in deep snow.
Uh, what's part of the world are you coming from right now?
I'm currently in Toronto, and the weather was a bit milder today, but it's been there's been some kind of snowstorms and
Right.
more kind of intense winter weather coming our way. Yeah.
There's a lot of productions happening in Canada, Toronto. I mean, I guess that's why you're there. There's a lot to go, projects and things that you're probably finding easier access than after COVID than maybe in the US or in the UK. Is that correct?
Yeah, I wonder. It's hard to tell how other countries are kind of dealing with it, but yeah, Canada is it's a great place to film, and I think a lot of American production companies
Sure.
and I think now more and more Canadian productions are starting to create their own stories and film them in Canada, and it not just be projects from the States kind of pretending to be the
Yeah.
States but in Canada. So that's lovely to see. But yeah, there's a lot going on, and that's great for me while I'm out here. But yeah.
You're getting very established in your career so far, in particular, most recently, Three Pines, a series with Alfred Molina, who I've adored from day one. I remember seeing as a kid on VHS Letter to Brezhnev, a movie that he did, which is incredible. I still have a copy of it somewhere. Uh, what was that experience like? Firstly, how did you get the role? Was it a tough audition process? It's become a very popular series, which I hope there might be a second season or a continuation.
Yeah, I hope there will be too. Um, so working with Alfred was great. I've never actually seen that Letter to Brezhnev, so I'll have to look that up. He is visually incredible to watch on screen and also be in his presence while he's working.
Yeah.
He's very generous cast member, very generous lead actor to have on set, and really sets the tone for everyone to kind of do their best work. And he's always telling a joke, and he's always making you laugh and just kind of keeping things light. So it was incredible to work with him, and I was really excited to work with him. And I knew that having someone like Alfred Molina play our lead inspector was going to be fantastic. You know, you always kind of bit nervous before you know who it's going to be. Will they do it justice? Will they
Oh
be
yeah.
the right person to carry that vehicle? And he, you know, is all of those things and more, and is just such a warm soul, which also lends itself to Inspector Gamache and his kind of leading from empathy as he does.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he's wonderful. And did you learn anything as you watched him work? Was there any little creative things that you took notice of, or did you feel at ease? Like what's it like being in like a scene partner with Mr. Molina?
Yeah, well, like I said, he's able to tell jokes and do all that on set, but then as soon as action is called, he is able to also find his way into that immediately.
Yeah, he
And that is
switches.
something, yeah, that was really, really interesting to see and note as an actor who, you know, we all have a different, slightly different, well, very different processes probably that are very unique to each one of us. But I think, you know, when you're trying to maybe stay in an emotion or stay in a place, emotional place, sometimes that can be kind of draining as an actor, and you've got lots of, you know, waiting around on set. So I think
Oh yeah.
finding ways into your character that are immediate and effective like that, I think is a real skill. But maybe that's something that you learn after you know, 50 years of being in the biz.
Yeah, that's true. I've never seen him do a bad movie or a bad role. Like that's the
Yeah.
kind of performer he is.
Yeah.
How did you get the role? Was it a process of elimination? Did you put in a self tape? Yeah, very well
Yeah.
done, and congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Yeah, it was all self-tapes at the time because it was still in the height of the pandemic.
Yeah,
And
sure.
the role came about, I had heard about it some months before because I'd actually worked on another project with the creator and writer of the show, Amelia Di Girolamo. I worked on a project called Deceit that was done for Channel 4.
Okay.
And after that project was finished, Amelia had reached out because she's a wonderful human. So she also is someone who connects with other humans. And so she's the kind of person who reached out to me, and knowing that I was also spending some time in Canada, she told me about this next project of hers and that she was writing it for Amazon Canada, and she knew I was out there. And so just letting you know that it's happening. So I was like, great. I started to read. You know, you don't normally get a head start. So that was really, really nice and really fortunate because it meant that I got to have a lot of time with the source material. I
Yeah.
got to read the novels and really be immersed in the world of those novels. And I felt very strong connection to Clara Morrow, who I ended up auditioning for. And the rest is history, as they say. There was nothing, you know, it was never a kind of sure bet or anything like that, but you
I don't
know,
know.
part was right for me, and
Yeah.
I did a good job, and so yeah, it all worked out.
It was almost a sure bet. You were one step ahead, which is a good thing for an actor.
Yeah, but you know, I think the character in the novels is maybe a few years older, or you know, maybe reading the novels you might think, oh yeah, she could play that maybe in 7 years time or something
Mm.
like that. And I think what Amelia did was she, instead of doing it you know, word for word from the book, she took the essence from each character, and then she allowed herself to do her, you know, to use her own artistic input
Yeah,
to create these characters for screen. So they didn't have to, you know, have all the specific things that they necessarily have in the novels. And I think that's something that I'm seeing in kind of fans' responses, is they are picking up on, you know, the thing that I'm bringing is Clara's essence and the
for sure.
way that she moves through the world. So that's been really nice to get that feedback.
And I guess, with your parents being who they are, and I'll ask a little bit about them shortly, but were you always destined to be acting? Why acting and performing? Was it something that you've always wanted to do, or fall into it as you got a bit older?
I think that it was always something I was around. My father was an actor
Yeah.
before he passed away, and he was someone who, you know, there weren't tons of times that I was necessarily on set or seeing him do his thing, but just in daily life, he was a very larger than life person. And so I
Wow.
think, yeah, being around him and his energy that was very unique and very special and kind of often electric at times, I think that was the thing that was inspiring for me
Yeah.
and allowed me to kind of explore all those parts of myself. And my mum being an artist, and my dad was also an artist as well
Mm.
as being an actor, and my sister's a jeweler and an artist. And so it was always around, I guess, without even, you know, I would never have thought, oh, I come from a really artistic family. But then I guess when you sort of talk about what they were like, you think, oh yeah, I guess it was a really artistic family. And so that was all inspiration for the role,
Yep.
and for me in life, I think, just to kind of follow my nose and take their lead in a way. Yeah.
So jeweler, sister, that's handy in case you need some rings of any kind, or some beautiful necklaces, maybe
Absolutely.
for a role.
It's all here.
Oh, look at
I
that.
can only wear my sister. It would be blasphemous to wear anything else. No. And thank goodness she makes incredible jewelry. She makes really stunning stuff. Her name's Elsa Tierney, and I
Okay.
actually wore I wore one of her torso collection for the premiere of the show. So that was great. I got to show off
Oh,
all her pieces and feel fabulous in her jewelry.
I was going to say, yeah, if you're ever invited to the BAFTAs or you go to the Golden Globes or the Oscars, you can flash the jewelry and that'd be awesome.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're real statement pieces, so they work well for that kind of event.
It's lovely to hear a little bit about your dad. I mean, you would have fond memories of him. Any particular movie that you maybe watch on a regular basis to remind you of him, or have you got a favorite role that he did?
Yeah, I think, one of the more obvious ones that I sort of dip into from time to time is Braveheart.
I
He
thought you'd
he
say that. Me too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he did so much theatre really, and I have lots of memories of him on stage, and
Mm,
he had all these kind of monologues that he'd written that he could perform at a whim,
mm.
at any given moment, and those were kind of thrilling to watch. He was really incredible in live theatre and just in life. But yeah, in terms of films, I think Braveheart is a really fun one, and the original House of Cards that I recommend anyone to watch because it's so fantastic. He's one of the politicians in there who's kind of,
Okay.
runs the prime minister and then gets, oh dear. There we go. Incoming call.
Someone
Yeah,
wants you, but I don't want them to take you away from me just
that's
yet.
right. I thought I had all that turned off anyway. Technology, I'll never get around it. Um, yeah, he was brilliant in that as well. The original House of Cards
Okay.
is one of those fantastic productions that, yeah, he's very good in.
What's your thoughts on musicals? Are you a singer and a dancer as well? Do you think musicals are quite, in the last 5 or 6 years, very popular again, and if done right, can be successful? Would that be something that you would pursue?
Are you a musical fan?
I'm a soundtrack fan. So I have not got a musical
Ah,
bone in my body, but I love physical media and soundtracks especially. So part of my repertoire
yeah.
as a movie journalist and a film, entertainment correspondent, I guess, is to know music as well as actors and directors and so forth. Yeah, it's one of my specialties.
Mm. Yeah, well, I love musicals. It's something that I think traditionally, or many years ago, I would have sort of thought, no, that's not for me. I'm not,
Yeah,
the kind of obvious thing you think in your head of what a musical actor has to be. But, there's so many actors who don't
yeah.
necessarily have the most perfect, pitch perfect voice, but pull out these incredible performances, like
Mm.
Alan Cummings in Cabaret,
Oh yeah,
or
yeah.
Judi Dench, and there's so many performers who we know like that who just bring out these wonderful performances but wouldn't consider themselves to be singers per se. But it's something that I've always kind of keep testing myself on, and actually the audition for the show that I did for Channel 4 was mainly a song, and
Oh,
it's not something that I was always confident in. And so it's funny that that's the thing that won me that role and then led to this role. And so I really have a place for music in my heart, and I'd love to explore music more in the future. I love the idea of potentially playing Joni Mitchell one day, so maybe I should be practicing my scales.
maybe, yeah. Well, there's a high ambition for you, Joni Mitchell. Maybe start researching, writing a little bit of a spec script that you can pitch. You,
Yeah,
you never
maybe
know.
you'll write it.
You never,
Come on,
I'm
James.
already one of your fans, so it's I'm on board already. Uh,
Brilliant.
okay, so as an actor, this is hypothetical, but this is going to be a tough choice, I think. If you were offered a project which was an independent project but a lead role, but at the same time you were offered a blockbuster film but it was a cameo, very important cameo, but you're invited on to that film as a cameo, or you had a choice of being a lead in an independent film that you believed in, which would you choose, do you think?
Mm. Yeah, that's one that you hear a lot of actors talk about, those kind of decisions. I
Yeah,
think, you know, hypothetically, it depends on the hypothetical time and place in your life, doesn't it? You
I
know,
get it.
is
Yes.
money a factor? Money is a very real factor, I think, for so many performers. And
Mm.
um, I think it would depend on the people you're working with. So whichever project seemed to offer the most kind of collaboration
Okay.
and opportunity in that way. I'd like to think that the artist in me would say I'll do that independent film
Yes.
and, you know, just do that project. But yeah, I think I see something in both of those. I see those as being equally wonderful things to be able to do. So both would be a massive gift, I think, you know. Yeah.
I thought you'd sit on the fence and say both because it's a tough one.
Being a politician.
Yeah. Is there anything that you might wouldn't do? Is there something that you draw the line at, or are you okay with any subject matter, emotional situation in a role? I'm talking about.
I think that if a film is promoting violence that um, is kind of glorifying violence,
Mm,
or you know, certain attitudes towards
mm,
oppressed people or women, or you know, I think any film like that that isn't adding something to the conversation, that is just being violent for the sake of it or for
mm.
glorifying it, I'm not interested in that whatsoever. I think that we can be much more intelligent with our filmmaking, and so I would say that kind of thing I'm definitely not interested in doing, or anything that's kind of overly gratuitous in any way.
Yeah.
I think I am just sort of, yeah, I think I reel a little bit at that, but you know, those are
Oh, I
our
understand.
initial instincts to reading something, because but I do then try and also challenge that initial response I have to a script and think, okay, is this, am I just overreacting to something, or is there something more to the script? So I'll always give it time, but yeah.
No, that's fair enough. I agree totally. I don't mind violent movies or action movies, but if they're clueless about what the aim of is happening, yeah, no, I totally get that.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not sure if this is true, but in your spare time, do you do ceramics or are you interested in pottery? Is that something I believe that I read somewhere that you're into?
Yeah, yeah, it is. It's something that I started this year. After we finished filming, I started taking pottery classes and got very, very obsessed and very, very deep into the clay
So you just
world.
got pottery classes from scratch and then just fell into it. Wow, that's
And then
great.
went from there. Yeah, yeah. And then I discovered later that my grandmother, if she could have done anything else, she would have been a potter. That's something that I discovered, and
Oh,
that my great grandfather built kilns. So maybe there was something dormant, you know, waiting to come out.
that's incredible. That's tough. You can have sort of regular pottery and ceramics, but then you can get very creative and do different things. Anything can be done with clay.
Yeah, it really can.
Mm.
I'm such a spokesperson now for clay, but the possibilities are endless. And, you know, it kind of brings you back to that childlike exploration. It's a really fun, flowy thing to do. And yeah, it's like you're creating something out of a lump of earth. It's pretty amazing.
Uh, or maybe I'll send you a link. But at the moment in Sydney, there's a huge, lovely in a gallery at the Powerhouse Museum of Ceramics. It's called Clay Dynasty, and it's
Wow.
a big, almost the whole entire bottom floor of the museum is covered in beautiful ceramics. So Google it
Amazing.
or look it up. It's been on for about 12 months. I think it's finishing in a couple of months' time, but it's called Clay
Yeah.
Dynasty. I think you'd be interested in it.
That's great. Yeah, I keep seeing lots more kind of ceramic exhibitions in main art galleries, and I
Yeah.
think it's something that's in the public consciousness at the moment. People are really into it, which is great.
Well, I've seen it a few times. You start very contemporary, and then as you walk through, it gets very abstract. It gets,
Yeah.
it gets weirder and weirder as you go towards the back of the room. You'd love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is there any roles coming up that you can talk about? Any projects or something you can share that we can look forward to, other than maybe
There's
another series of Three
I
Pines?
know, yeah, we're all hoping for another season of Three Pines. I think it's on the cards. I think it's
It's
going to
been
happen.
very successful, so I'm sure
Yeah.
you'll get the call.
I'm definitely looking forward to my character and kind of exploring her and her arc and where she's going. And then I've got a couple of personal projects. So I'm working with an actor friend of mine on a comedy script about some very niche hobbyists that I won't go into too much detail because I don't want to give it away. But
Does it
yeah,
involve clay?
I mean, in a way, but it's not, it's not pottery. It's kind of historical, but modern day. So that will be something fun and lighthearted, and we're kind of, yeah, we're working on that this year. And other than that, I've got a couple more writing projects, and I'm writing a novel and just letting myself go all over the map, really.
Oh, that's interesting. So are you writing a fiction novel, or is it about your life?
It's no, I'm not there yet, but thank you. Writing a fiction novel. It's a witchy novel because I'm really into that kind of magic and historical fiction. And yeah, so that's going to be
Oh,
another thing set in London, kind of maybe in and around the British Museum and other places in London. So some familiar landmarks and things like that. So that's been fun to work on.
maybe a pagan musical. That would work.
I'll put some song in there for you.
Yeah, you can be the lead of the coven. It sounds all right to me.
That's right.
And I do believe that you have done enough so far to write some kind of biography, because you've had a very eventful life. It's only going to get bigger, and you've got such a rich family history. So I think you'd have a lot of information to share.
Oh, that's very kind of you to say. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So to finish it off, is there any actors or directors, and I'm sure there's a long list, but any actors or directors just off the top of your head you'd really want to work with at some point?
Yeah, I'd love to work with Mike White on season 3 of White Lotus.
Well, there you go. Self-tape, send it immediately.
I know. How do I make that happen? Yeah, no, I'm big into that series, and he seems like someone who really allows his actors to play on set, and I'm all about that. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Emily the Criminal, which has Aubrey Plaza in it, who obviously was in season 2 of The White Lotus. I'm a big fan of her
Yeah.
anyway. But if you haven't seen Emily the Criminal, it's made my top 10 list for 2022. She was great in The
Fantastic.
White Lotus, but she's even more awesome in this. And she's one of the producers as well. So there's another
Amazing.
recommendation.
That's on my watch list. Absolutely. Yeah. Oh,
Up
brilliant.
there with Letter to Brezhnev with Alfred Molina.
Yeah,
Google
I'll
it.
write it down now.
Well, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much. Have a